All right, good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Raymond, also known as Doc Ogg, depending on what chapter of my life you've known me from. I think it's been, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 years since the last time I put up a video outside of gaming, of course. And the last time I did, I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I was still active duty at the time, and it was focused on more towards non-commissioned officer professional development. I have since retired. I retired in 2018, and I did take a medical retirement. I did not do the full 20. I was 15 years in, and I can honestly say that I had a really great chain of command at the time. It was Captain Banks and First Sergeant McLaughlin uh, over there at 114 Field Artillery, and they never judged me. They supported me the whole way through, and as a result, I've managed to get out. I just recently graduated with my bachelor's degree in economics from the University of Texas at San Antonio. I've got a few really cool stories from there that I'll share with you later in this video. But the core purpose of these videos that I make is mostly focused on mental health. I'm a huge advocate for that. I feel that, especially for men, that is something that we overlook. It's something that people tend to get judged by. It's something that that people still feel that stigma about. And I feel like if I can help somebody to break through that stigma and to go and get the help that they need and to get the help that they deserve, yeah, something that will help them to become a more productive citizen and to be able to have better relationships and to just be a better person overall, then yeah, I'll have accomplished my goal with these videos. So the first thing I want to talk about is something that happened to me in December. Towards the end of the year, most every year, I kind of go through this sort of rough spiral. Um, I was already drinking very, very heavily. Had some family disagreements, and I self medicated. I just pretty much stayed drunk, and I never got blackout drunk or anything like that. Um, but finally it comes to a head where I end up checking into Law Ridge, which is the local inpatient psychiatric medical facility here in San Antonio, and I didn't quite get the treatment that I needed. There were some issues going on with the VA and whatnot, so I got out of there after about a week. Went out, got blasted, and I got pulled over on my way home. Got my first DUI, and we know there's been a lot of jokes about it. It's like, oh yeah, now you'll if you were still in service, you would have put on another rocker or made first sergeant. And but honestly, that's definitely not my crowning achievement. Um, it's I've been very fortunate that because of the fact that Texas as a state is very friendly towards veterans, that I've managed to become part of this veterans treatment course. And even after the DUI, I actually got a chance to go back to Law Ridge and do a full 45-day program, where we started setting up a program that was just for veterans, separate from the active duty and separate from the civilians, which they had not had for a long time. So originally there was like five of us. By the time I left, there was like 20 veterans in there of all branches of service, and so that was cool. But right now I do have to pay my fines. I have to blow into a breathalyzer 4 times a day for the next 6 months. Um, Pay my fine, do my driver's ed, and everything like that. But the nice thing is, once this is all done and over with, it actually will get expunged from my record. So the good news is that yes, you can make a mistake, but as long as you're doing something that shows that you are a person who can be rehabilitated, that can be sent back into society, that is not a general threat, that you're working to fix those things that got you into that situation to begin with, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So I hope maybe if something like this has happened to you, which DUIs are very common offense, at least as far as misdemeanors go. Um, so don't lose hope. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the line for you. There is, you can come out of it. Um, but getting into I guess the meat and potatoes of this video. Uh, One thing that I noticed has stopped a lot of military men from transitioning to the civilian world is there's a sort of loss of personal identity that comes with it. That's something that I have felt very, very acutely. When I was in the army, I started. I was a tank crewman. That's how cool is that? You're sitting there driving an M1A1 Abrams main battle tank, this 70-ton beast. I did that for 3 years. I reclassed, and I became a medic. When I was a medic, I was doc. I was the guy that people were going to for not just their medical things, but also for personal advice. In spite of the fact that my own like religious and political leanings aren't really typical for your average military guy, but that was just the level of trust and respect that I had been given, and I miss it, and I will always miss it. I will always miss being doc. So getting out to the civilian world, I had to lose that. Now I'm Raymond. Nobody calls me Doc anymore. A lot of my veteran brothers and stuff like that, they'll still do that. Um, but I haven't practiced anything medical in, gosh, 3 4 years. It's been a while. Um, so I've had to kind of create this new identity for myself. I started. I was a what we call a non-traditional student, meaning that people who are older, um, older than your average college age kid. I am 40 years old now. Um, it took me the last 2 years to finish my undergrad. So while I was doing that, I got a chance to do some really cool things. I got to play Quidditch for a little while. Now, granted, at 40 years old, trying to keep up with like these actual college athletes was not my strong suit. So I really didn't get much field time at all. I think I played like one game, and that was an exhibition. But it was still fun. It was cool to be part of that. Um, I was actually a beater, by the way. So my job was basically to whack people with a dodgeball. Uh, let's see. I I got to join the Anthropological Society, the which that was really cool. There were some times that things got a little, I guess, away from the core of anthropology, at least in my own opinion. Um, but there were a lot of very interesting, very bright people that were part of that organization. I actually became the graphics coordinator for them. And that is where I realized that I have no eye whatsoever for art. And I tried, I really did. But let's be honest, I sucked at it. I'm a much better writer. I am a much more technical type of person. Um, I've just never been a good artist, but I gave it a shot anyway, just to see how it would go. Um, and most importantly, I think for me anyway, I joined a business fraternity called Delta Sigma Pi. So Delta Sigma Pi it's not like your traditional bro frat. These are people who are all business majors. Some colleges consider economics to be a liberal arts major. University of Texas at San Antonio considers it to be College of Business, along with cybersecurity. They're also College of Business as well. And I have just met some of the absolute most amazing people there. And a lot of them were actually veterans as well. And even some people that never even, they have never wanted to, they're not interested in it, and they will never put on a uniform. But they were still just incredibly intelligent and incredibly motivated people. And getting involved with them really helped me to kind of start shifting that identity from Sergeant Og to Raymond. And I really cannot express enough gratitude for those type of people. um, I, of course, there's also the Student Veterans Association as well. So in trying to overcome a lot of these biases, I got to talk to a lot of these younger students, face to face, get to know them, get to learn their stories, who they are, where they're coming from, and where they're going in life. And there's one story that really sticks out to me. He was a young man. His name's Alan Joseph. He was a member of my fraternity, or still is a member of my fraternity. And I was talking to this kid, and he was telling me a story about when he was 16 years old. He had written an algorithm to analyze stocks, which he then got patented and was purchased by a company in California. And I was sitting there like, wow, I mean, this kid's genius. Like, why is he going to public university, and he has so many other options. And he kind of explained to me what his motivations were and why he chose UTSA versus some of the other places he really, because I mean, this is like a Harvard MIT level kid. I mean, he was just absolutely genius. And it just seeing why he chose UTSA, it just It was really cool. And yeah, I met a lady. She had grown up with a fairly normal background, middle class family, and she spent a lot of her college time traveling abroad to places like Brazil and Portugal. And she was actually one of the first people that I talked to when going into Delta Sigma Pi. And it's like, man, this is an organization that has just full of these kind of people. Like, I want to be part of that. And yeah, there was another one. One thing that we did while I was there was a resume thing. Now, me, I'm 40 years old. I am, like, by a good 4 or 5 years, the oldest person in the fraternity at this time. And this young lady, gosh, maybe 22, 23 years old, very young. Um, she takes a look at my resume, and like I'm sitting, just like, man, this thing's tight. I've got all the boxes are checked. Here's all the qualitative, the quantitative, and everything like that. And she introduced me to something called soft skills. So while I was in the army, one of the positions that I filled was equal opportunity representative. I also, I also got to handle some of the sharp things, which is the sexual harassment and rape prevention things for my clinic and for some of the units that I was in later on after I got certified in those programs. And she asked me, it's like, why don't you have more of that stuff on here? I mean, this is very important things. I mean, this shows that you are involved, where you're interested in diversity, where you're interested in people, and that was something that I was missing. I was so used to having this career that was so results oriented, where there's not a lot of emphasis on your connection, on the human connection, because when you're in the army, the main purpose of the army is to fight and win the nation's wars. That is the goal of the army. So there's not a whole lot of emphasis on human connection and bonding there, outside of the bonding of suffering. Um, but just listening to these people's stories and getting advice and being open to the feedback from them has really, really helped me to transition into the civilian world and to see civilians for what they really are. Because by and large, these are not lazy, they're not entitled people. No more so than average Joes in the army, who are just you get a soldier that joins the army just because he thinks the uniform is going to help him get girls. How's that any less entitled than some college kid? Yeah. So seeing where these people are at, seeing where they're going, learning their stories really does help, building some sort of connection. And you don't have to be interested in all the same things that they are. It's going to be impossible to find two people that have completely 100% similar interests. It's just not going to happen. But there's nothing wrong with that. The trick is, are you going to be receptive to the things that those people have to say, and to the opinions and the views of those people? Or are you just going to just shut them out because you're used to being able to talk in a certain way, you're used to being able to approach a situation in a certain way? And the thing a lot of NCOs don't understand is the reason that it appears that being rough and over aggressive with your soldiers works for discipline is because if that soldier does anything retaliatory, they're going to get in a lot more trouble. You're looking at going to jail, you're looking at working for half pay, and it's not like you can just quit and get another job. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So NCOs are very much protected by these regulations, and a lot of them don't even realize it. They think that they're making people tough. It's like, no, you're really not. Because I remember, I look back when I was a private. If I got yelled at, and to me, if I was getting yelled at for nothing, then I kind of just shut that NCO out, because there wasn't anything for me to learn. I wasn't learning any new task correctly. I didn't get yelled at a lot. I was pretty normal as far as privates go and specialists. So I didn't really do a whole lot to get yelled at. But on the rare occasion that it happened, depending on the reason why, it's just, it's whatever. I'll fix it next time and get this guy off my back. Yeah. Now, that said, I do still have a lot of work to do, and I think that a lot of us do. There's a lot that comes into fully getting that new identity. For me, getting sober is one of the things that I've really had to work on, because the temptation to drink is always there. Especially once you've gone through certain traumas in your life. And one thing that we as veterans are very, very guilty of is what we call gatekeeping. So gatekeeping is essentially is like, okay, well, I was blown up, I was shot, I had this happen to me, I had this happen to me. So whatever issue that this other person is facing cannot possibly compare. It can't be as bad. So this person can't have PTSD because all they had was like a bad relationship or something like that. It's like, well, how that they weren't in an abusive relationship, and even then, do you, how do you quantify their level of trauma from that abuse? You cannot experience the pain of other people. All pain is subjective to the person who is feeling it, and it is never fair for us to look at our own circumstances and to say that well, it can't be so bad for this other person because they didn't go through what I went through. It's like, okay, well, I mean, great. What do you want them to do about it? To them, that is the worst thing that they have ever gone through, and it's been rough. I mean, show some empathy. It's not that difficult to do. Um, but I think one of the biggest obstacles that we as men have to overcome is this big word that makes a lot of people feel very uncomfortable called vulnerability. Personally, I do not like to feel vulnerable. I do not like the idea of somebody else being able to affect the way that I feel. It's just a defense mechanism. However, I also have to understand that in order for me to heal, in order for me to get through some of the things that I've gone through, I have to open myself up to somebody, whether it's a professional or whether it's to a family member. Somebody has to know. Um, I do still see a therapist. I will always see a therapist, and there's nothing wrong with that. And yes, there are people in my life who are already, ready and willing to take that and use it against me. Oh yeah, you need to go back to Laurel Ridge. Oh, you're a bad person because you have to go see therapy, or because you're an alcoholic. It's like, no, I don't have to listen to that. And by me understanding that my life is up for my evaluation, it's not up for the evaluation of other people. I have to be the one that sleeps well at night. I have to be the one that looks in the mirror. And if I can be happy looking in the mirror and saying, you know what? Yeah, man, these I might have had these bad traits. I might have these bad traits going on, but I'm doing this, this, and this, and I'm working on it. I'm out here. I'm killing it because I know that I'm doing the best that I can and that I'm getting better all the time. Yeah. So that's something that's something that's very difficult for a lot of people to do, especially if you're in a married relationship, or if you're with a boyfriend or girlfriend, or some sort of thing where that partner can potentially use that stuff to harm you, because nobody wants to be harmed by the person closest to them. And we know that the ones that we are closest to have the most power to hurt us. And none of us want to be hurt by those people that we're close to. We don't want to be hurt by those people that we're trying to open up to. But there is a certain amount of risk that's going to be involved. There's going to be a certain amount of work on your part, on being willing to communicate with your partner about what's going on in your life. And even then, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to evaluate, if this person is constantly using your traumas as a weapon to harm you, is that somebody that you really need in your life? Yeah, and that even kind of goes back to what I talked about earlier about changing your identity. After at the end of a military career, there is a certain sense of grief and loss that comes with that. It's the same with relationships. There's a certain amount of grief and loss that you have to overcome when you sever a relationship. And a lot of people, they don't want to start that journey because it is so painful. It's much easier just to stay in that situation where somebody's using your vulnerabilities against you. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with you, as long as you're happy with the direction your life is taking, nobody can use your past against you. I think it was I guess to paraphrase a quote from Game of Thrones from Tyrion Lannister: "So never forget what you are. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you." To me, that was always such a profound thing. It's accepting what you are. I don't know if George R. R. Martin had written that to be as profound as he did, but to me, it has always been something very near and dear to my heart. It's accepting the the negative parts of yourself along with the positive parts of yourself, constantly working to try to get better. But also, once you acknowledge those failings that you have, once you acknowledge those flaws that you have, you know, then whoever tries to use it as an insult against you, they no longer can. Because at that point, you understand what's going on in your life. You understand, where you're going with that trauma. And if they don't understand the future that's ahead of you, that's not on them. Uh, but I think that's about all I've got for today. If you guys have any sort of topic that you would like to talk about, just drop a comment or just send me a message. Just kind of let me know some of the things that have been on your mind and some things that you would like to hear discussed on this channel. I normally would have a microphone. I think that, but unfortunately, you get what you paid for. The last microphone that I had was a very cheap piece of crap, so it fell apart. So I'm using my headset for right now, but I promise I'm going to keep trying to upgrade my situation here and trying to get some better equipment in. And but thank you all so much for stopping by. I love you all. I hope you have a great time or a great night. And yeah, so keep in touch and keep coming back.